Hey guys, just before this video gets started, I wanted to let you know I have a new Instagram as well as Twitter. Darkness Tales YT on Instagram and Darkness Tales _ on Twitter. I'll leave them both on the screen as well as in links in the description below. So if you want to interact with me outside of YouTube, where I'm more likely to respond to notifications, go give me a follow over there. Alright, I guess we can get right into the story. Last week, I had the weirdest dating experience of my life. Just to put everything into context, I'm not crazy about the whole online dating thing. But I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship and figured, why not? I end up matching with this gorgeous woman, who I'll refer to as Daisy. Daisy and I start talking, and at first she seems really cool. We eventually decide to meet up at a spot near her, roughly an hour away from where I live. Finding a parking spot took longer than expected, so when I finally arrive, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to apologize for being late. Unfortunately, I see that Daisy was nowhere to be found. To add insult to injury, all of my texts and calls go unanswered for the next 10 minutes. This, in turn, leads to the assumption that I've been stood up. Annoying, but not the first time it's happened. Just as I'm about to leave, I see her rounding the corner in a stunning outfit. She's every bit as beautiful as I envisioned, which probably helped me forget the poor communication just seconds prior. Daisy explains that one of her friends was having an issue and she needed to be there to calm her down. We continue on with the date and everything seems cool. Daisy was a lovely girl, and we vibed the whole time. The only snag was her mentioning how she was looking for a father for her baby boy. Up to that point, she hadn't said anything about children. Something that I, respectfully, am not looking for. I still have a lot to figure out in my own life, and I'm just not in a place where I feel comfortable being an adult figure in a child's world. I informed her that I wasn't the best person to be around children, and she just kind of laughed it off. She gave me a whole spiel about how I'd actually be great with kids and how I just needed to trust myself. Then she went on to explain how the right woman would somehow bring out the father in me. Weird, but whatever. I asked if she was still close to the baby's dad, which leads to a tangent about how she thought she could make him into the perfect man, but he was too resistant to change. When asked more about this, she simply referred to trying to make all the pieces fit in his life a certain way, but ultimately, he couldn't be molded into what she wanted. Seeing that this was headed towards a toxic place, I opted to just change the subject and continue on with the night. By the time 11 o'clock rolled around, I was feeling exhausted and decided to head home. After saying our goodbyes, I go to find my car, but before I even get in, I see it's been vandalized. The headlights were smashed in, my tire slashed, and one of my windows was broken. Oddly enough, nothing was stolen. It just appeared as though someone had taken their anger out on my vehicle. Right as I'm about to call roadside assistance, I hear someone yelling my name. Lo and behold, Daisy just so happened to be driving right past. Unprompted, she decides to pull into the parking lot, and she immediately notices the damage. After inspecting my car for a few moments, she suggested that we go back to her place and hang out for a bit, and she can take me back after. At first, I was reluctant. But, after looking at Uber and Lyft prices and hearing a convincing argument from Daisy about how bad Uber is in the area, I agreed. I got everything squared away with having my car towed, and we headed off to her apartment. When we arrived, the first thing I noticed was how clean everything was. There wasn't a speck of dust or item out of order. When Daisy turned on the TV, it was already set to Netflix, and a bowl full of snacks was neatly placed on the table. It appeared as though she were expecting company. But what I found the oddest was that there was no babysitter. What good parent leaves a baby completely unattended for hours at a time? When I asked about this, she simply laughed it off and made a comment about her son was too good to need someone to watch him, and how she didn't trust others in her home. Definitely weird, but I didn't necessarily feel comfortable lecturing her about how to raise her kid. Before picking a movie, she asked if I wanted to meet her son. Internally, the answer was absolutely not, but she was my free ride, so I opted for the most awkward sure I'd ever given. She disappeared into another room with a giddy scream, and soon returned with a young boy wrapped in a blanket. She was whispering something to him, and with a loving smile, invited me to come over and say hello. I did as I was told and walked over to greet the baby. I went to peel back the blanket on what should have been a sleepy-eyed young boy, but my immediate reaction was to jump back and yip when, to my horror, I was met with the disgusting face of a decrepit porcelain doll. Its single eye rolled back into its skull, and a fat roach seemed to have made a home in its dislocated mouth. The once white skin was stained black, and various cracks ran around its head. For a moment, I genuinely thought this was some kind of horrible prank, but the look of love and acceptance on Daisy's face was authentic. She eyed the doll like any other mother would their child, and the soft kisses she gave solidified the fact that it didn't register what she was holding wasn't a human. She gave me a big smile and asked if I thought her boy was beautiful, and I couldn't even form a proper reply. I just fumbled my way into asking if I could use the bathroom. She nodded and casually pointed me to the bathroom in her room. I took the opportunity to half sprint down the hallway towards it. Instinctually, I locked the bathroom door behind me and splashed some water on my face, trying to sober myself up from this nightmare. When the reality of the situation hit, I stood there for minutes, trying to think up a way to excuse myself from whatever the hell was going on. My thoughts, however, were interrupted by what sounded like a soft yet persistent crying noise. Thinking it was Daisy coming to check on me, I unlocked the door and cracked it open slightly, but didn't see anyone in the room. Curious, I cautiously made my way out of the bathroom, trying to keep as silent as possible, and followed the source to a walk-in closet. Preparing myself for the worst, I took a deep breath and slowly cracked open the door, where I was greeted by seemingly nothing. The only thing inside seemed to be a CPR dummy torso. Multiple pairs of differently shaped arms and legs were strewn about, along with various pairs of unorganized clothing. For a moment, I thought I was hearing things, or that it was a neighbor coming through thin walls, but suddenly what I thought was an inanimate torso quickly turned his head towards me, let out a gasp for air, and shouted, "Help me! Oh God, help me! Please help me! I'm in so much pain!" The shock and horror at the fact that this horribly disfigured person was alive nearly put me on my ass as I scrambled to slam the closet door shut. But it was too late. The man screaming had alerted Daisy, and I could hear her inquiring what was happening in the other room. It was now or never. I burst down the hallway, pushed past awaiting Daisy at the door, and made my way outside, sprinting down the dark street until I physically couldn't go any longer. The last thing I heard was Daisy running after me, screaming, come back, please, our baby needs you, we'll die without you." The sound of her voice slowly died out, and the moment I felt she was no longer coming after me, I called an Uber and sat in their car in silence the rest of the way home. As soon as I arrived, I called the police and explained everything that went down that night. The next day, I tried to get a follow-up on what exactly happened. To my shock, I was told that they found absolutely nothing. Just a young woman was living alone by herself. No kids, no torso in the closet, nothing. I didn't know how to take that information. I still don't. I know what I saw, and if Daisy is still out there hurting people, I don't know if I can live with the fact that she's free to meet other people and do horrible things to them. I would have assumed that the story ended there, but just the other night, I got a phone call. It was Daisy. She told me that our kid said his first word. Apparently, it was my name. She said that she loved me and that both she and the boy missed me dearly. And then, silence. The next day, I find a postcard in the mail that read, "Soon we're going to be looking at a daycare. Thinking of finding one closer to you so your commute from work is easier. Looking forward to seeing you soon. With love, Daisy." I never once mentioned where I live, and I'm terrified of what this means for me. If any of you are doing the online dating thing, please hear me out. Make sure that you're really, really damn careful about who you choose to connect with. The choice might stick with you forever.